Greetings, Sawubona, salutations. How you doing from wherever you are? For those who don't know, my name is Dingane Klaba. I'm a South African American, currently residing in South Africa, helping to take care of my parents. Uh, I wanted to take this opportunity to just say my condolences to Nipsey Hussle and to the people of Crenshaw, LA, people all around the world that listen to that man's music, um, who were influenced by the positive community actions that he was taking to reduce the violence in his hood. Um, all the different projects that he was involved in to bring a spotlight and an awareness to and a consciousness to his people, to trying to get them to take over their communities and to understand, that they're not as useless and they're not as bad or as evil or as fucked up as they think that they are. They're actually quite powerful. And once they realize that power, they can do something to start to change their environments. We've seen a lot of people like that throughout history. A lot of black leaders, obviously Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, but beyond them, we've seen a lot of brothers like this embody that whole message and try to spread that message to other people like them, and unfortunately meet the same fate. There's a lot more out here that is still around, you know what I'm saying? And I think that, we just have to understand that this is not over, and we got to do a better job at taking care of ourselves. You know, and that's kind of the lesson that I take from this. I've been going through a tremendous amount of grief over this, and I didn't even know the man personally. You know, there's a lot of my white friends, in leftist circles that didn't know the man at all, and they're still trying to figure out, like, who was this guy? Like, why was he so important? It's too much to explain. You know what I mean? It's how many different hats he put, how many different hats he wore. Obviously, he was one of the best rappers in the game, if you ask me. That's how I became familiar with who Nipsey Hussle was, through the hip hop game. I'm a huge hip hop fan, so I listen to his music, and that's what turned me on to him. But then starting to hear his interviews and to hear him speak and to see him doing things, buying back businesses in his community, and setting up all these different community programs to benefit young disenfranchised kids, like just doing stuff that very few rappers of his ilk were even doing or even aware that they could do. When you get to a level where you've accumulated that much money and that much power, typically what happens is people don't come back, because why? You know what I mean? This is a hood. This is a place that has given me so much pain and grief in my life. I don't want to ever go back there. I'm going to go to the hills of Beverly Hills, or wherever, Orange County. I'm never coming back to this ever again. And Nipsey Hussle could have did the same thing. He could have said, fuck all y'all, I'm gone, I'm out. I don't want to ever be bothered with this hood shit again. But he didn't do that, and that spoke to his character. That spoke to who he was, not just as a hip hop artist, you know what I mean? Not just as a man, but as a father, as a son, as so many things. He was just so many different things to so many different people that didn't even know him. I mean, I almost cried over this man, and I didn't even know him. The last person that was close to me that died, I become so desensitized to death. The last person that was close to me that died, I tried to cry and I couldn't. But when it came to Nipsey, I almost cried. I came closer to crying for him than I did for my own kin. And that just goes to show you, like, how influential and how powerful this man's message was, and how incredible his aura was. It will continue to live on, not just in his music, not just in his kids, but in each and every single one of us that was touched by his life. And to some extent, that is the beauty of the lesson that can come out of this, is that in one way or another, he will always live on. But still, just sad circumstances behind what happened. For people who don't know, when I found out, had to be about 4 a.m, which, South Africa and the U.S., there's a difference in time. There's an 8-hour difference. We're 8 hours ahead of the United States. So I figured out, as this was happening, I just happened to be on the internet and saw the news, and I couldn't believe it. Googled it just to confirm, and saw a news article about it and realized it was real. At that moment, that was when I almost cried, but I was so tired. I was just so debilitated at that point. It was 4 a.m. I don't even know what I was doing up in the first place. Maybe it was that. Maybe I just had something on my mind. I don't know. But that didn't help. Seeing that news, and you know, I was just like, let me just go to sleep and deal with this tomorrow. You know what I mean? I can't go through this right now. I went to sleep, woke up. News was still there. They were still looking for the guy. There were a whole lot of conspiracy theories that got put out there about, whether this was a government hit or, had something to do with Dr. Sebi, who completely unconnected. There were a lot of different, conspiracy theories out there. I was always hesitant to believe that, not just because knowing that, Nipsey was a member of the Rolling 60s, which is one of the most powerful, infamous Crip gangs in Los Angeles. They have a lot of enemies. There's a lot of people that might want to get at him. I don't know all the street politics. I'm not there on the ground, so I don't understand everything. But I do know Rolling 60s, and I do know their reputation. And I didn't just quickly assume that this was government related, especially when you see so much gang violence, on a daily basis. You know what I mean? A guy like that, you always know that it could happen. But, I didn't really know what to believe. You know what I mean? There wasn't a whole lot of information, and I didn't, it could have been anybody, right? Because of his reputation, because of who he was, it could have been anybody. So I reserved judgment. I didn't just leap to conclusions. Slowly but surely, we started getting more information. The police started to I started to see pictures of this dude named Eric Holder, who, people on the streets were saying was a known informant. And one of the reasons why Nipsey, didn't want him there at his shop, where he got killed. Actually, he got killed in front of his own business. There was apparently the incident was that there was a confrontation between these two men. Nipsey knows the man somehow. Supposedly he's in the same gang as he is. Nipsey knew his reputation for being a snitch. He didn't want him around. Eric got mad at that. He decided to kill him. Right? That's the gist of the story. Which makes a whole lot of sense to me, because in my experience, when these types of things happen, and they happen very often in our community, usually it's the people that closest to you that end up doing you in. You think it's going to be your enemies, but in fact, it's the people that right next to you, some of your closest friends that you would never think could do something like that. They are the ones that end up doing it. I've seen it time and time again. You know what I mean? I've seen it time and time again. It's affected me. It's the same story. You know what I'm saying? Either it's happened to me or it's happened to people close to me, my family members. Like, unfortunately, every black person, no matter who you are, black, poor, rich, don't matter, you know the script. You've seen this script replay over and over and over again to the time where it just becomes clockwork. So in the back of my head, I'm assuming this is probably somebody close to him. But again, I'm not going to make no judgment. And then what do you know? The news comes out. Eric Holder, Rolling 60s member, just got pissed off because they had a bad interaction and he decided to do some dumb shit. Don't surprise me. Don't surprise me, because again, we've seen this type of thing happen. And if it happened to anyone like Nipsey, it could happen to all of us, So, that whole bit didn't surprise me. Honestly, when it came to revenge, it's like, I know the street soldiers are going to make sure that karma is enforced, but at the same time, taking Eric out is not going to bring back Nipsey. You know what I mean? At this point, I'm kind of beyond retribution. Like, I'm thinking beyond that. I'm thinking, like, how are we going to make sure this type of thing don't happen again? How are we going to stop this from happening again? Because that's my worst fear. It's like, every time this happens, I'm just like, when is the next? Who's next? Like, who is it going to be next? I know it's going to be somebody. Because that is the only for sure thing that seems to come out of shit like this, is that it's going to happen again. I want to know more. Getting retribution is easy. That's a known, that's a given. The law of karma is fucking real. Somebody will take care of him. I'm not even worried about him. Like, how are we going to stop this shit from happening again? And that's really the biggest question that we need to ask ourselves at this time. Because if we can't stop this shit from happening again, then we're just going to continue in the same cycle of death and violence and retardation. And I'm sick of it. I can't deal with it anymore. You know what I mean? At the same time, I don't have answers, but, I still have my family. I still have my people. As long as we still got each other, we still have a shot, and so all I can do is dedicate my life to hopefully finding the answers one day. But yeah, the way he went didn't really surprise me that much. The fact that it was someone close to him didn't really surprise me at all. What surprised me was that the police got to him before the streets got to him. Because I'm sure the whole city of LA, I mean, you talking about LA loved him like they were his son, The whole city loved him like a son. I'm shocked that the streets did not get to him before the police did. But, he tried to turn himself into a mental institution, which to me probably indicates that he's getting ready to use a legal defense as, I'm mentally unstable and this is why this happened. I don't think it's going to work, And I'm sure, and not to take mental illness lightly, I sympathize with everyone who experiences and suffers from any kind of mental illness. I know lots of friends, lots of family that do, and that's not a joke, that's not a game. But at the same time, bruh. No, we ain't riding with that. We ain't riding with that. We all saw the footage. We all saw what you did, and it was foul, It's one thing to shoot a man, but to come back and to double tap and to do all the disrespectful things that you did, like that's, nah, man. You don't get to argue that. And you can argue that if you want to, but there's people that are just as crazy as you, maybe probably even more crazy, that have suffered worse consequences. So who do you think you are? You think we about to catch you a break? No. That's not how that works, bro. That's not how that works. Like I said, karma's going to end up taking care of this man. And, I ain't even worried about that. That ain't none of my business, you know what I'm saying? But I know it's going to get handled. So, I don't even worry about retribution. What we really got to start working, what the difficult part of moving forward now is figuring out how do we stop this from happening in the future. How do we continue to remember and carry on his legacy? That's the most important question. To me, it's just continuing with the work that he put forward in educating our children. Some of the programs that he had for teaching young kids from the hood how to code. Revolutionary stuff. You know what I mean? Buying back businesses, owning his own masters, being a master entrepreneur. I'm not a capitalist. I'm not someone who sees, this infinite value in the dollar. But at the same time, I do recognize that in the capitalist world, there is power in the dollar. And for black people who have been deprived of that dollar, yet still holds a considerable degree of power, because we do have some dollars, right? We just haven't recognized like the power that we have as an organized collective when it comes to utilizing, the power of that dollar collectively. I think, his death is going to highlight the fact that we're not using our collective power, and I think that that's going to help the struggle forward and manifest itself in helping us to buy back some of these businesses. To really be conscious of where we spend our money. To always make sure that it's getting put back to the places that gave us life, that gave us birth, like Nipsey did. I think those are the ways that we can really, really continue to remember his struggle. You know what I mean? The whole gang piece and unifying the gangs. I mean, yes, this guy was a gang member, but he was far from being, the vilified enemy of the people that the state always wants to portray the gang members as. You know what I mean? This is a man that understood that gang members are just human beings that are products of their environments, right? These are shitty environments that are enforced by a state that is exploiting us for our labor. And as a result, you have this dysfunction. You have these people that are fighting over scraps that they don't have, because that's the only way that they can survive, right? And so, of course, gangs are going to form. In those kinds of environments, of course, gangs are going to pop up, But what was so revolutionary about this man's vision is that he recognized that, gangs could be a positive force in the community, that they could actually become protectors of their community, that they could actually be motivators for revolutionary activity in their community, and I wrote about this topic during my time as a journalist for Unicorn Riot, called Unify or Die. And it was a whole explanation, a whole essay basically, on the history of gangs like the Crips and the Bloods, how they came to be formed in the aftermath of the Black Panther movement of the 60s and 70s, how they came after that and were inspired by that. And especially in times of conflict, in times of riot, you would see these gang members on the front lines confronting police violence against black youth. You know, these gangs in an instant stopped fighting each other, came together against a common enemy, which was the police and the state. Not only that, but they were protecting their own businesses. They were stopping looters and people from burning down their own businesses and saying, if you want to do that, go take it down the street, but you're not about to burn this business down. This is one of ours. Like, Nipsey understood that history. Nipsey was one of the few people in those critical positions of gang leadership that understood the power of that history and the fact that it could be brought back, and the fact that, you know, this could happen, that peace between the gangs could happen, that black unity could be a reality, that it's happened before and it can happen again, and I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure it happens. Man, this one hit home. This one hit home on so many levels, because it wasn't just about Nipsey the person, man. It was about everything that he represented and everything that he did, and it represented a whole lot to me. It represented a whole lot to the entire world. So this is a tough loss, but like I said, the only thing we can do is learn and get better from it, and understand that, you know, we're not alone, that we're all feeling the same pain, and we all still have a struggle to fight. I think ultimately what Nipsey would have wanted is for us to continue the marathon. You know, the marathon. There's still a race. We still have a race to win. We still have a battle to fight. We still have a war to win. So while we're here, we got to dedicate every last bit of resource, every last ounce of blood and sweat and tears and breath towards winning that war, towards winning that marathon, you know, because what else we got? What else are we going to do? You know, got to take some time to mourn and really sit back and reflect on this one, because this one's going to take a while. It's going to burn for a long time. But, you know, eventually we got to get back. We got to rebound. We got to get back in the game. And, you know, my eyes are really focused on that, on how do I do just that? You know, with my limited resources and my ability, how do I continue the legacy that he left behind? You know, not just for him, but so many countless brothers like him that have perished in the same fate. You know, watch your people, man. Take care of your people. You know, understand that, you know, not everybody you think is a friend is necessarily your friend. You know what I mean? One of the reasons why I find it difficult to trust people, why I find it difficult to go outside, you know, outside of this lovely home I got here, is just because of that fact exactly. So many people have so many close people, friends, and everything that we gave immense power to just ended up burning bridges completely. You know what I'm saying? Almost taking my life, you know, on a couple occasions, you know, over some bullshit. I find it very difficult to trust people because of things like that, because of what happened to Nipsey. But at the same time, the challenge is, you know, if you really want a revolutionary society, if you really want a new world, you got to go out there, you got to expose yourself, you got to trust people, you got to politic with people, otherwise it's not going to happen. Nipsey understood that. He knew he was putting himself at risk. You know, he knew that right next to right on his block, right on the block where he was at, there's an alleyway. You know, there's an alleyway, and niggas in the hood know, man, in the alleyway is where it usually goes down. There's a lot of danger in that alleyway. You know, he knew that alleyway was right there, you know, and that at any moment, you know what I'm saying, whether from that alleyway or from the street, it didn't really matter. He could be taken out like anybody else. He knew that. He understood that. But he wasn't afraid, because he knew he had a bigger mission. He had a bigger purpose in life. He had a bigger mission to take care of that was beyond just himself. And that is what gave him the courage to confront that and to say, I don't care what happens to me. This is going to get done. I'm going to do this because I have no choice. Because the alternative is worse than death. And to that, I just got to say salute, man. Salute to one of the greatest rappers, one of the greatest entertainers, one of the greatest revolutionary human beings I have ever known. You know, gangster, entrepreneur, king, whatever you want to call him. Just one of the most amazing human beings I think the world has ever known. And hey, man, countless like you before you, countless more, unfortunately, after you, but one way or the other, man, we're gonna win this one, man. We're gonna win this for y'all. We're gonna bring it home. You know, peace and love and solidarity with the family, LA, the entire world. We miss you. We love you. Peace.